Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar. First, let's start by showing these results of our poll as I introduce our webinar and speakers. Hopefully, everyone can see the results. Our webinar today is titled Protect Your Data, Simplifying Data Management in a Multi-Cloud World. Rubrik and Cloudian will be presenting on how to address the challenges and complexities that surround explosive data growth and data protection across multiple on-premises and multi-cloud locations. Joining us today are Kelvin Chow, Systems Engineer at Rubrik, and Sanjay Jagged, Senior Director of Products and Solutions at Cloudian. Welcome, Kelvin and Sanjay.
Thank you, Laura. And really excited to talk about this hot topic. And welcome to Kelvin from Rubrik. Kelvin, nice to have you on this webinar.
Yes, Sanjay, thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, it's very interesting to see these results, and I think Kelvin, you'll agree with this. But you know, all the work that we have done together as both the companies are trying to address one of the pressing challenges that most of the enterprises today have to deal with, and that is, how do I simplify my overall data management problems when it comes to addressing data protection issues and challenges? How do I make sure that I take the advantages of the cloud, what cloud has to offer, and just move away from the traditional legacy architecture? So when you look at these results, right, you know, yes, there's a lot of on-premises. People are looking at cloud as an alternative and ways to bring in cloud to help them either simplify or at least lower the TCOs. So great results, and I think it validates what we both as companies are trying to get done. So talking about the agenda for our talk today, like, you know, we're going to talk about the key challenges based on all the discussions that we have had with multiple customers, what we see, and when we hear talk from industry pundits. You know, this is a very pressing need for a lot of enterprises. And then we'll dwell into what our joint solution is all about and how we address these challenges. We'll go a little bit deep dive into different options and combinations that are possible with the joint solutions, and then we'll summarize. We'll definitely have a Q&A at the end of this particular session so that we can take some questions and address any particular aspects of the solutions or talk that you want to discuss. So let's jump into it, right, straight away. Talking about Rubrik and Cloudian, I think we've been working together for quite some time. Like, you know, Rubrik provides a great solution when it comes to end-to-end data management and protection, right? You know, it allows users not only just to securely access the data, but it also allows them to meet their like, you know, RTOs and RPOs, and can simplify, automate most of the workflows that typically are where users spend a lot of time, right? You know, it simplifies dramatically the way people, like, you know, our customers trying to solve and address the data management, data protection challenges. From a Cloudian perspective, what we bring to the table is a limitlessly scalable, enterprise-grade software-defined object storage solution, right? You know, a solution that is S3 compatible, can give you the scale that you're looking for in your own data centers to address the exponential growth, but also gives you a vehicle to get on to any of the clouds and bring in the cloud economics as and when needed, based on different possible options, and we'll go a little bit more in details about that. And together, right, you know, it's just like, you know, a perfect match and a combinations where both the solutions complement each other and provide a joint integrated value prop that addresses, if not all, majority of our customers' requirements around data management, data protection. So Kelvin, any thoughts on that?
No, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, exactly. That's essentially it, right? Be able to facilitate data management and protection in a very easy way. I think that's the key really trying to follow the paradigms of the cloud, right? So, but bringing it on-prem, cloud, etc. True hybrid cloud solution.
Perfect. Like now, let's talk a little bit about the challenges, right? So today's critical data management challenges are mainly, if you were to look into this, 2 or 3 main category items. First is the most obvious one, is that the amount of data that needs to be managed is growing at an unproportionate rate, right? You're talking about exponential growth, right? There is this, it's well known, right? There are so many talks about how in the next few years you're going to see like a tremendous increase in the amount of data that is going to be generated, that needs to be managed, that needs to be protected. Data is becoming a lifeline for most of these industries and most of these customers. Like people are looking at not only just protecting data, but how do I monetize data? So data management has become the top item for majority of our enterprise customers, right? And this data is coming from many different sources, right? It's your typical enterprise application data. We all know the fact that, enterprise applications, for every primary copy, there is at least 2 or 3 secondary copies. Then you're talking about all the digitization that happens and the amount of the newer applications and the different sources of data, be it sensors, be it cameras, be it media. That amount of data is something that is not possible for traditional architectures to manage, and this has become a big challenge. The second point is, whenever you talk about this kind of data growth, now you're talking about issues associated with scaling and managing this data from an infrastructure perspective, right? The IT practitioners are always under the pressure to accommodate this data growth, and their budgets are actually not growing at the same rate. So that brings up a very interesting dynamic, right? How do I make sure that I protect the data? I also have to make sure that the data is available as and when it's needed, and that accesses are now globalized. It's no longer just one place, one data center, right? We have workforces that are spread across the globe, and that means that this brings in a very interesting dynamics around managing data, accessing data, and to do this securely is the key thing out here, right? So keeping up with the budgets, scaling, managing, staffing, these are all becoming real challenges. And talk about data management, and I think Calvin, I think what would be great to see from your perspective, because you get first-hand discussions with different customers around how their different backup silos needs and influencing what people are trying to get done today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to drive people through the class, but I think people understand that legacy data protection is not awesome, right? I mean, there's multiple management points. You got to figure out, backup software, backup proxies, servers, etc., right? And it's really, complexity has been there since day one, right? And if we move forward, there's really no change even to the present, right? I mean, the only thing that really incrementally changed was adding, deduplication appliances, right? I feel like that's more of a Band-Aid solution, right? So imagine, our whole goal is to really simplify that and really create a joint solution with Cloudian and really kind of give the end user control of their data, right? That's kind of the whole goal in a very easy way, right? That's the whole premise, essentially.
I think the statement that you said, like give end users control of their data, is the key out here, right? Because as you said, there are many different solutions, there are Band-Aids, but how do I make sure that I do this systematically, giving controls to the end users in the way they can influence and manage their data, right? That's very key. So really great story on that side. And as you said, right, I think cloud is definitely a factor, right? People are looking at cloud in not just a way to move from a CapEx to an OpEx model, but cloud brings in a value from providing additional services when it comes to monetizing data, or even offering certain SLAs that will help you consolidate or at least reduce the amount of data centers you are managing, right? So be it multiple sites, be it the cloud, and now we are just not talking about single cloud, right? We are talking about multiple clouds, which they have their own unique value props. And from some of the industry reports that we see, 85% of the enterprise IT organizations are looking to leverage some form of multi-cloud, and about 70% are actually going to be using hybrid cloud. So cloud is a very integral part when it comes to today's modern infrastructure, and customers are looking at ways of how the particular solution that they pick can help me move towards clouds or help me simplify my goals of accommodating cloud or leveraging cloud. So Kevin, you guys see this often, right? And there's a lot of work that you guys have been doing in the same space.
Absolutely. No, yeah. I mean, our whole goal is really following, the paradigms of the cloud, right? Really to facilitate ease of use, true scale out, self-service, and ease of consumption, right? So we can actually provide that solution on-prem or in the cloud, and really facilitate that true hybrid cloud solution, right? And especially partnering with Cloudian, I think that's a huge value prop from that aspect.
Exactly, right? We want to make sure that irrespective of the cloud you pick and choose, there has to be flexibility of picking the right horse for the right race, right? You need that kind of flexibility, but also you want to make sure that you have a single pane of data management across all the clouds. And that's where I think the Rubrik Cloudian solution really excels. So we'll go into a little bit more details, but those are the main challenges, right? Talk about the data growth, the management of the infrastructure with the growth, and then the cloud and movement towards the cloud. So let's talk and summarize this story, right? As I said, data is definitely growing at an exponential rate that needs to be managed, and that means the storage needs to be growing at the same rate, or at least accommodate that rate. Traditional SAN and NAS or other solutions are actually not the right way to go about this, because they bring in inherent limitations. The service levels are definitely becoming a bigger criteria. People want to make sure that the data is available as and when they need it and where they need it, especially if you're looking at DRs and backup. Recovery times are really, really important. Traditional backups are complex, right? They bring in the silos, and managing different silos is not the most easiest thing. And last is just the very nature of IT and the infrastructure, right? The move from the traditional proprietary solutions to a software-defined hyper-converged, where you can get commodity hardware to run and leverage the advancements that happen in this space, rather than just being locked into proprietary technologies. So all those things are what is forcing this change, and the Cloudian Rubrik story is just perfect in terms of accommodating this and managing these challenges. So let's talk a little bit about how do you simplify your enterprise data management. So I'll start off with this simple slide, what your data center today looks like. And Calvin, please jump in, because today's world is as you mentioned earlier in the slides, right? It's different backup softwares, silos, and the workflows are still pretty much same.
Yeah, so I mean, this is essentially kind of some of the legacy data protection paradigms, right? You got multiple management points. You got to figure out, what backup software running on which backup server, what proxies, etc., and then dumping it to, a backup disk appliance, and then all signing to tape, right? Our whole goal is to really take all that and really just kind of, simplify into a true scale-out platform for a Rubrik perspective, to facilitate instant recovery, and then for long-term retention, really leverage cloud and scale-out technologies to handle that portion, right? So really kind of give you that true ease of consumption, kind of that cloud paradigm, as I mentioned earlier, right? True scale-out, ease of use, ease of consumption, and self-service, right? And that's the kind of, essentially in a nutshell. So
exactly right. You just consolidating all of those things in a scale-out solution. From a data management perspective, a scale-out solution from a storage perspective, then now you can just make sure that you can scale individual component as you need it. Like, if you need certain, more capacity, you can scale the storage independently and then maybe add more from a Rubrik perspective just to accommodate different workflows and touch points.
Absolutely. And breeds predictability too, right? That's the key.
Exactly, and that translates into very, very tangible advantages when it comes to solution-wise, right? You're talking about a very simplified solution where now you can have the most recent data on a Rubrik, where you can now meet your RPOs and your RTOs and make sure that you take advantage of the cloud-native workflows that Rubrik has to provide, and then through a policy engine, be able to push the data into a very highly scalable Cloudian storage platform that can scale up to petabytes, right? So you now have a combination of most recent data, quick access, versus now an integrated policy engine that can move data into a storage platform that can accommodate the scale, right? This is and all this thing is done behind your firewall, so to give you that same security. And the best thing is the overall solution gives you the value of economics. You're talking about solution that meets and rivals some of the cloud price points. Kevin, did I miss anything on that side?
No, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, essentially, what we're saying is buy as much Rubrik as you need to facilitate instant recovery and data management. And really, we actually encourage customers to, scale out clouding, right? It's a more cost-effective way to do it. It's very, dense and cost-effective and, easy to scale. I mean, can't complain. It's pretty simple topology.
Exactly. All right, so let's jump into a little bit more, right? So now we talked about the simple workflows of backing up archive. What about DR, right? That's a question that we often get asked. And this is where the options are galore, right? The very nature that both these solutions are scale out, both these solutions can take care of having distributed architecture where you can have the solution deployed across multiple sites and then the data be moved either at the Rubrik level or having a Cloudian cluster that can be now distributed across multiple sites or even in a hybrid cloud environment, right? So the idea is the data movement can happen at the Rubrik level or at the Cloudian level, and the recovery and the DR side can either be done by having a Rubrik appliance, or if the customer wants to do this, the whole stack can be done through in the cloud of your choice. And to summarize that options, right, this particular slide gives you a very nice view into how you can do, right, an on-prem DR, replicate to a secondary data center, right, and the data movement, as I said, right, one of the things that is very unique and complementary is the fact that irrespective of where the data movement happens, be it at the Cloudian level or the Rubrik level, there is synergies and the testing and the certification that we have done that it seems integrated. It gives you the value is the data is always there where you need it, be it in your DR site, be it in the cloud. And what we have done from a Cloudian perspective, if you look at when it comes to a cloud-based DR, is the data is moved into the choice of your cloud at a per bucket level. So you can not only just leverage cloud, but you can leverage multiple clouds based on the SLAs that you want to, and have Rubrik that can support all the clouds, be able to address and be able to allow you to recover your applications in the cloud. Kelvin, any thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we take it one step further, right? Obviously leveraging, Cloudian-based replication for DR. But what's unique is, to really try to provide that true hybrid cloud functionality. We can obviously leverage Cloudian to archive to the cloud. We can archive to the cloud directly. I think what's unique about Rubrik is that, we give you the ability to actually turn on VMs in the cloud, right? To really instantiate and really, facilitate three things, right? Data migration to the cloud, if that's a requirement, test and dev in the cloud, or, DR in the cloud, right? So basically we're just giving, end users multiple options, whether it's the Cloudian, whether it's from Rubrik side, if they're, some of their data is in the cloud or some of it is in on-prem, we give them that flexibility.
Yeah, no, and I don't want to steal the thunder. I know you have a lot of interesting things that you want to talk about later in the slides, but this is a great way to get our customers, or at least people listening on this, an idea of how Cloudian and Rubrik are working together to address the most challenging problems when it comes to data management and protection, and how the solution complements each other, right? So let's take a little time and deep dive into the individual components, right? Where we talked about the joint value props, we talked about the challenges and how the solution addresses some of those challenges. But let's get into a little bit details of what does the technology offer, right? So when you look at Cloudian, as I mentioned, Cloudian basically is a software-defined enterprise object storage solution, an on-prem solution that offers S3 compatible object storage. We have the architecture inherently can offer infinitely scalable solutions, so you can start small and can scale up to hundreds of petabyte. It allows you to, it's cloud ready. And when we say cloud ready, you can deploy the solution in your data center. You can deploy this in the cloud. You can have a single cluster that spans on-prem, cloud, or hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, offering the same experience and a single data management plane when it comes to your storage. And to do this at an economics of less than a cent per gig is what we have to offer, and this is what our customers really value, right? Simplicity, scale, security, reliability, and enterprise-grade solution, right? We talked about the challenges when it comes to data growth. The solution offers highly dense, we can have a 1U box or a 4U box. So you can have literally almost a petabyte in a box, and then can scale the storage densities to multiple petabyte non-disruptively. And as you scale this, you can scale not only just the capacity, but also the performance, while maintaining the simplicity of it, right? We've seen challenges, so our customers talk about when it comes to scaling their storage environment, they had to scale the amount of FTEs that are needed to manage this. Well, you can do that by having a single FTE manage multiple petabytes of Cloudian storage. And that brings in great economics value when it comes to TCO, right? There's zero downtime, there's zero forklift. You can add nodes, retire nodes, add data centers, and can scale and keep maintaining the system operating all the time, right? There's no downtime, and while protecting your data all the time. We can begin with 3 nodes as little as 50 terabytes and can expand into hundreds of terabytes. So it accommodates the needs for every customer, right? We have seen this a lot. Customers actually start off with one workload, and then they keep adding more and more, and then be able to accommodate that in a multi-tenant way, so that they can still have the same management interface, but can support multiple tenants. So why Cloudian, right? It appears as a single storage pool, single namespace, multi-tenant environment, can give you bucket level granular storage management policies that allow you to then dictate what policies, like, whether you want to do replica copies, erasure coded, based on the sensitivity of your data and what your protection levels are, right? And still keep delivering on the performance and consistency. We also talk about how, like, in the traditional environments, you're talking about a primary site, then you have a DR site, which mimics the primary site, and you have to invest in two different infrastructures, right? With Cloudian, one of the value props that we bring is now you can collapse your DR site. You have a single cluster by just splitting the nodes in between sites. You can now have a single cluster that delivers integrated DR. So you don't need a dedicated storage DR platform on your DR site. We give you the flexibility through storage policies that allow you to now spread out your data and sustain complete data center failures. You can do this in the cloud if need be, right? Cloudian gives you the flexibility not only to just run Cloudian stack in the cloud, but to be able to scale and add nodes in this cloud so that you can get the performance that you want. And you can use any cloud, you can use multiple clouds. And that's the kind of flexibility that is what customers are looking for. They don't let me just talk about the unique features, right? And also from a Cloudian perspective, not only just we offer the scale. One of the things that differentiate us, as I was talking about, is the granular bucket level policies, right? We talk about being able to do on a per bucket basis, which data needs to be replicated or which data needs to be erasure coded. We can support file and objects. So all the traditional applications that are looking to connect and take advantage of the cloud solution is very important, not only just to be able to give them the access, but also be able to convert that file data into an object data that allows them to then take advantage of the newer value props that the object storage offers, right? Mainly around metadata, where not only just we can create and put custom metadata so that you can quickly go through it and take advantage of the scale. We offer multi-tenancy and QoS, so now you can have multiple tenants that are being provided and provisioned on the same scale out storage nodes, but each having different SLAs and quality of service. And as I mentioned, right, to be able to offer the ability to take advantage of cloud either by tiering or by running in the cloud and being able to expand the single namespace across the cloud. In order to summarize, the value when it comes to data protection, right? It gives you a simple plug and play target, right? Which is proven with Rubrik environments. It gives you the scale that we talked about when it comes to petabyte, and it gives you the performance, right? We're talking about getting up to 18 terabytes per hour when you are talking about with 16 nodes, right? We provide the most industry compatibility when it comes through S3 APIs, supporting all the different verbs that are required, so that you can make the most out of an S3 based object storage platforms. You can now deploy this in on-prem or in the cloud and can scale. It's perfect solution when it comes to primary backup target, secondary target, and so on. Let's take this opportunity and go a little bit deep dive into the Rubrik bridge. Calvin, can you access the slides?
Yeah, so yeah, guys, just to not to belabor the point, but I think we all understand some of the challenges with legacy data protection, right? I mean, complex, multiple management points, multiple silos, nothing's really changed. When something breaks, the whole entire ecosystem of that legacy data protection breaks. But so kind of Rubrik kind of took on the challenge of really simplifying this, right? So next slide, Sanjay. Really just taking all that stuff and really consolidating into a software-based solution that scaled out, very similar to Cloudian's messaging, right? True scale-out solution, and really leveraging, public or private cloud for long-term retention, right? Really take all that complexity, give it into a simple software-based solution and 2U appliance that scales out. And then, we prefer Cloudian because of the similar messaging and integration points that we have, because, our whole goal is to really have you buy as much Rubrik as you need to facilitate instant recovery. And we really want you to scale out Cloudian, right? Because it's more cost effective, much more dense, from that aspect as well. Next slide, please. So how it works, you just play this all out, Sanjay. So how it really works, these are essentially kind of 6 key points why we've been, heavily adopted in the industry today, right? We're easy to set up, right? Following that cloud paradigm, we can literally, it usually takes longer to rack the appliance than it is to set up the actual, backing up data, right? So really easy to set up on that aspect. And we took the concept of, the cloud of called SLA policies, right? So service level agreement policies. So essentially what that means is that, no more jobs, right? You shouldn't worry about how often you back up data, when would it kick off data, do I have enough resources to kick off that backup job, et cetera, right? All you should care about is how often you back up data and how long you want to keep it, right? In our case, we'll just keep it on Cloudian, right? Really try to facilitate simplicity on that end. And really let Rubrik AI handle all the job distribution, when to kick off the jobs, et cetera, okay? And another thing that's unique is that, we are a clustered architecture, right? Kind of similar to Cloudian's messaging, where if you scale out our appliance, you get more performance, right? Memory, et cetera, capacity, right? On top of that, when we ingest, we actually do a parallel ingest, right? So we actually ingest into, each individual node. So there's 4 nodes per 2U appliance, right? So obviously the more nodes you have, the more ingest performance you'll get and restore, right? And what's unique is that, we use something that's very unique from Rubrik, is really what we call application-aware deduplication, right? So really giving you that data efficiency while maintaining, data efficiency in terms of capacity, et cetera, okay? Now, this is kind of we call this kind of Rubrik Act 1, instant recovery, right? We give the end users the ability to live mount VMs and or SQL Server databases, regardless of size on a Rubrik appliance, okay? It's really powerful because now we can bring those assets up ASAP, and I can give it back to the compromised business unit, and then they do what they need to do. And then when I'm comfortable as admin, I'll just either vMotion or migrate that database to the production environment, okay? And on top of that, I sometimes joke, right? If you guys know how to use Google, you know how to use Rubrik, right? Because, we give you the ability to search and do file level restores, whether it's on-prem, in the cloud, on Cloudian, et cetera, right? And kind of give you that granular recovery. And really kind of one of the byproducts of that is really combating ransomware, right? That's one unique feature of Rubrik as well. And obviously, security is a table stakes nowadays, but, at least you guys got peace of mind that we encrypt in flight and at rest, right? And then obviously we are a cloud-based, we were built for the cloud generation, so we have a lot of integrations with public cloud or private. But what's unique with the public is that, we give you the ability to instantiate, archives that are already in AWS or Azure, spinning them, fully functional VMs, right, to really facilitate data migration, DR, or test and dev in the cloud, right, et cetera. So yeah, now on top of that, after you instantiate those, you can just protect those assets in the cloud as well, right? So really a true hybrid cloud technology. We can archive your Cloudian, maybe we put your tier 1 in Cloudian, maybe put your tier 2 for test and dev in the cloud, and really give you management plane to manage all your application assets, essentially. Next slide. So this is what I'm actually really pumped up about, right? It's really what we call Rubrik Act 2, right? Really kind of our foray into software as a service, okay? So obviously, if you have, multiple Rubrik clusters all around the world and, archiving to Cloudian, et cetera, even though in the cluster we have a single pane of glass for management, but we have multiple clusters, it kind of creates some data fragmentation, right? So what Polaris is our first two services, which I'll talk about. It was GPS, which gives you the ability to really manage all your Rubrik assets under one single pane of glass. Being able to report, audit, figure out capacity consumption, etc., and be able to manage all your Rubrik clusters under one single pane of glass. Okay. Now the power of Polaris is really being able to develop additional services on top of this platform, right? So really kind of abstracting your need for managing infrastructure and really give you control and really what's the word I'm trying to use? Basically facilitating whatever services that you need to procure down the line. You just buy the services that you need, right? So the two that are GA today are essentially GPS, which is essentially a single pane of management for all your Rubrik assets, and what we're pleased to announce is really Radar, right? Being able to detect ransomware, remediate, and recover, right? Which is huge. So, and what's unique is that we're very familiar with our phones, right? Being able to download apps instantly, figure out what app really is functional within our day-to-day. Imagine doing that with your data protection or data management in your IT infrastructure, right? Which I think is going to be huge. Okay. Next slide. So GPS, really a single pane of glass to manage all your Rubrik assets, right? Give intrinsic visibility to capacity, events, reporting, etc. Right? But I think the next one is probably more relevant to the industry today. The next slide, Sanjay. So managing clusters, sorry, my apologies, reporting, etc. So this is exciting, right? Imagine, ransomware is a big deal, right? I mean, people get hit by ransomware and, it takes them weeks to recover. There's ransomware out there that are purposely built to wipe out, specific, some of our competitors' backup data, right? So what we developed with Polaris is giving you a service to really recover and really figure out when a ransomware attack is happening, right? So if you go to the next slide. So with the Polaris Radar service, now we give you the ability to detect, analyze, and accelerate recovery during a ransomware attack. And I think this is going to be huge. And then as Polaris evolves, we're going to start doing automated failover or intrinsic visibility into PCI information, et cetera, right? And then now as an end user, you just buy the service that you need, right? But Radar and GPS are what's GA today. All right, Sanjay, I think I'll pass it up to you.
So, Kevin, that is great, right? I think you hit a couple of items, and I think that is really, really good when it comes to ransomware threat detection, and the work that you guys have done with Polaris is really, really something that I believe brings the next level value when it comes to the solution. And the way we complement some of the work that is done on your side is to carry forward that same thing down to the storage layer, right? By supporting worm compliance and offering a very secure platform that can also encrypt the data at rest and make sure that only the right folks have access to it, right? And then set up policies when it comes to retentions. So that you can now have audits all the way from your application down to your Polaris and down into Cloudian storage. And that's the power of taking advantage of the similar technologies and the similar mindset when it comes from a company perspective. Let's go and address and solve some of this data management and data protection challenges, and that's what our customers value when it comes to an integrated solution of Cloudian and Rubrik. Let me summarize this, right? So let me talk about the solution that we are working on. So we talked about how from a Cloudian perspective, right? We have integrated with Rubrik a fully integrated solution that allows you to protect your data, have the most common data be available on the Rubrik platforms with the ability to now tier and archive off long-term retention on a Cloudian platform that provides the scale-out storage. both the solutions can scale depending on how the customer wants the performance and the ability to do more, as we discussed with Kelvin, and talk about how Rubrik has taken the next step in terms of providing extra value-added services using the AI technologies and just simplifying the full stack, right? And that is what we want to leave you with today. The benefits are very simple, right? It's easy to deploy. There is an automated discovery associated with when it comes to finding out how your infrastructure is. There is no babysitting needed. As I said, right, it's simple, 1 or 2 FTEs max at managing the full complex and multi-petabyte solution. It's very simple to scale. There is no downtime. You can scale the Rubrik node independently of and the Cloudian nodes independently to meet your needs when it comes to scale out capabilities around performance, capacity, and scaling not only just in a single site, but to a DR site and also in the cloud. And to do all those things is to offer this at the lowest possible TCO, right? By shrinking your data center footprints, by shrinking the number of silos out there, by shrinking the workflows and the touch points that you have to manage, and be able to offer a fully integrated solution. Kevin, any thoughts around summary and where we are right now?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? I mean, you can see our message are very aligned, right? We have a very similar messaging and architecture, if you think about it, right? Truly easy to deploy, true scale out, right? Easy to scale. We don't have to worry about multiple management points, silos, and scaling out, inconsistently, right? It's predictable, easy to consume. Really trying to follow the paradigms of the cloud, but really bring it on-prem, right? Lower TCO, right? I mean, I said earlier, you buy as much Rubrik as you need to facilitate instant recovery and really have that data management flexibility. But really, we want you to archive to Cloudian, right? Because it's much more dense, easy to scales limitedly, infinitely, and it's really more cost-effective. True lower cost of total ownership, right? Total cost of ownership, sorry.
Exactly. So I just want to leave this audience with a thought from our customer, right? This is a joint customer that we have, and it is just great to see when someone understands what we're trying to do and appreciates and what we bring to the table, right? That allows these customers not only just to save by reducing the complexity, but also deliver greater value to their customers in turn. That is very, very fulfilling. That really brings a smile on your face when you know that the things that you are doing is really translating into something that your customers is benefiting and their customers are benefiting. So really great story. So let's look at some of the questions.
Yes, thank you, Sanjay, thank you, Kelvin, and thank you to all of our viewers. First question is for Kelvin. There are so many solutions around ransomware. How does Rubrik differentiate in terms of security and protection for my data?
Great question. I mean, it's actually twofold, but long story short, our data is immutable, right? So there's nothing can read or write or modify our backup data. Okay, so you got peace of mind that. And top of that, when we encrypt in flight and at rest, so that way you have peace of mind that no ransomware attack can attack Rubrik natively. Now when it does attack your data, at least with Radar, we give you preemptive ability to detect it and then figure out remediation and recover instantly, right? So kind of orchestrate that with the power of our API, right, from Polaris. So good question.
Great. Another question, I believe this one's for Sanjay. If we have Cloudian deployed, if we have Cloudian deployed in multiple sites, is it possible to view and access data across all sites?
Absolutely. So I think, this is right where the hiccup happened. So let me just take this opportunity to talk a little bit about that, right? So absolutely, you can do that. In fact, the way Cloudian works is you deploy this in a scale out fashion, right? So you have nodes that you have in your primary data center, and let's say you have Cloudian deployed across multiple data center, and that's what the audience asked. You can still manage this as a single cluster, right? And when you do that, that means you have a single pane of management. We call it as a single namespace. You still have the ability to view and set policies across your cluster and manage it as a single entity. And to take it to the next level and answer this, now, if you had more than two, let's say you want to have the second data center, be it in the cloud, you can still manage this as a single entity, be it on-prem or in the cloud. That way, having more control around some of your cloud resources when it comes to storage, and still presenting the single S3 endpoint or an ability to offer a single namespace so that from an application perspective, it looks as if it's the same entity. So yes, we definitely can do that, and that is one of the uniqueness of our story. And you can scale individual data centers depending on your needs.
Great. I think this one is for both of you. Do Rubrik and Cloudian have many joint customers with this solution?
So I can take a stab at this. Absolutely. This is something that we have seen great momentum, right? We have lots and lots of customers, as you can see on your screen. Some of them are really, really big enterprises. Some of them are big service providers that have taken our solutions and in turn converted into a service offering that they can offer to their customers, right? This is both the companies are working together when it comes to pushing the same agenda around data management and data protection, and the very complementary nature of the story, right? Have Rubrik be the data management piece, let the Cloudian be the storage management piece, and just customers appreciate the value and what we bring to the table. Kevin?
Yeah, I personally have three in the patch that I'm responsible for with this solution. So, I mean, a couple of government, agencies and one retail company. But yeah, I mean, they just love the simplicity, right? I think that's the key messaging, right? You don't have to be a 7-week, let's say Veritas backup admin, right? You can really be up and running, scalable solutions, start backing up and protecting assets in like literally 5 minutes, right? So.
Exactly. I think that I couldn't have said that better. Thank you. Great.
Kelvin, this one's for you. How long does it take to deploy Rubrik?
Great question. I always joke, it usually takes longer to rack it than it is to, deploy. But, if you exclude racking, right, I would say probably like 30, 40 minutes and you're up and running and you can start backing every asset after what we call a bootstrap. So.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Question for Sanjay. We have a hard time adding capacity without disruption. Can I add capacity to Cloudian non-disruptively without impacting my application workloads?
Yes, and I think, so if you look at the definition of scale-out storage, that's what it's supposed to be doing, right? You see a lot of scale-out storages out there in the market, which have traditional architectures where, when you add this, you have to then add other endpoints, and then you have to edit the application endpoints and so on and so on. That's, to me, is not scale out. I've been in the storage industry for almost 20 years, and I've heard the scale out term being used very loosely. From a Cloudian perspective, what we offer is a single namespace with the ability to add nodes, add data centers, and to be able to scale this in a non-disruptive way. And not only just scale, right? And when you add nodes, to be able to rebalance and move this so that all your nodes are actively participating and delivering on the performance and capacity is very, very important. And I think that is an integral part of our architecture. And we do this in a non-disruptive way, no forklifts upgrades. You can retire nodes and you can move to the next generation platform non-disruptively. So it's the very basic genesis of our architecture.
Okay. Great. Just a reminder to everyone, go ahead and put your questions in. We have one more from the audience, but if you'd like to get questions in, please do so now. We do have a few more minutes. So this question is for Kelvin and for Sanjay. How big is your footprint in the enterprise space? Can you handle enterprise SLAs?
Kevin, do you want to take a stab first? I can talk about the Cloudian component.
Yeah, absolutely. Very. So remember, one of our value props is one of our cloud paradigms is ease of consumption, right? All our appliances are 2U. Okay. Now, if you want to protect assets in the cloud, I mean, you don't even need appliance, right? You just run our Rubrik software in the cloud, but you can essentially scale up with 2U appliances, and you can mix and match our different appliances as well from a capacity standpoint. So the footprint is actually very minimal, right? I mean, the reality is, just to reiterate my earlier point, you buy as much Rubrik as you need. That could be 2U, 4U, 6U, etc. And really, want you to scale out Cloudian, right, to really maximize your TCO, right? So.
Yeah, and I'll add to this and just flip this. The footprint, to me, the way I look at it is the momentum that we have with our customers. Right? We have had both the companies have seen tremendous growth. Right, our Rubrik is one of probably the hottest companies when it comes to being a unicorn in the industry. Right, so it's a footprint on the number of customers, the momentum. And we're seeing exponential growth on that side. Same thing on the Cloudian side, right? We've seen our customer growth grow exponentially, right? We've seen customers repeatedly come and buy more. We have seen bigger customers now are looking at even hundreds of petabytes of storage, and that's the credibility and that's the value we bring when we talk about enterprise grade and enterprise footprint. It's not just smaller customers. We have seen some of the biggest global enterprise Fortune 500 companies deploy the solution, and that speaks for itself, and that speaks from the value, that speaks from the technology, and that speaks from the future of where these companies are headed. Really appreciate the time. If you ever need any information, feel free to reach out to us or visit our respective websites, and we'll be more than happy to engage. Happy rest of the day, and thank you very much for joining.